I had tremendous breakthroughs with womb healing practices with my male clients. And let me just explain why that is. In general, when we hear of the term womb healing or womb alignment, womb initiation, activation, whatever we want to call it, we think of practices and tools for the emotional, physical, and mental, as well as spiritual healing for the feminine reproductive organ, aka for women. And in majority of the cases, this is true. However, womb healing goes beyond gender, because while men do not have a physical womb organ, they do have an energetic womb space, which in Sanskrit is called the hara. You see, even in my ayahuasca ceremony, the men that were there with me going through their own healing journey had their rebirth through their own womb. So this is why womb healing holds tremendous power for man's emotional and ancestral well-being. And I'm going to give you two areas in particular where womb healing is incredibly powerful for men. Dr. Bernard Bale once said that all the tortures which man has invented in his wars to inflict on what he considers to be the enemy are the tortures that person has felt in the womb. And that refers back to the saying that men are fighting their grandfathers' wars, because it is a cycle of violence and conflict that persisted through generations. So the idea is that the past continues to have an impact on the present, and that subsequent generations are still dealing with the aftermath of these conflicts. Now, while not all men are actually going out there and fighting a physical war, we are here in particular referring to an internalized process, to an internalized battle that men are fighting with themselves, and they often don't really know where it comes from. And this leads me to the first key of the womb healing for man, which is the area of ancestral healing. You see, men, like all human beings, can be impacted by the wounds and traumas of their ancestors, as they can manifest in different ways, so including depression, physical illness, emotional distress, and relationship issues. So, for example, a man who has inherited a pattern of abuse or neglect from his ancestors may struggle with similar issues in his own relationships, or may have difficulty forming close, intimate connections with others, what we call today commitment issues, or the mother-father wound. So when men are unaware of the ways in which their ancestors' traumas and wounds are impacting their own lives, they may feel completely disconnected from their roots and especially their own sense of self. So healing ancestral wounds can help men connect with their own family history and cultural heritage in a deeper and more meaningful way. And it can also help them break patterns of trauma and dysfunction that have been passed down through generations by understanding the root cause of their own struggles, and with that, creating a path towards greater healing and wholeness. And the second key for womb healing for men is sexuality, sexual energy, and of course, relationships. You see, I was with a group of women the other day, and as women so many times do, we talk about relationships and men, and there were a lot of single women, and they were really explaining that they have a hard time finding the right man for themselves. And the man would meet them, go out with them, and they could literally feel that they were mesmerized with them. But however, somehow down the line, the contact just goes away, and then they see them on a date or even in a relationship with a woman that they would consider the opposite of them. And then a lady was saying that do not worry, because a man, if he really knows what he wants, he's going to go for it. Especially if he wants you as his woman, he's going to make sure you know that. Now, in an overall sense, this is true. However, we forget that men today, majority of men, are not in their full masculine power, are not truly confident. They're really fighting their own inner insecurities, lack of confidence. Often they're going through existential crisis. They're not financially where they want to be. So this kind of man is not going to go for the woman that he wants, because if she is imposing on him any kind of challenge where he is asked to step up to work on himself, then this is going to be too much for him. So what he's going to do is going to fall into the patterns of feeling more safe, feeling like a hero in the frame that he can, and is going to find for himself an option that is more comfortable and more convenient. When you sit in shit too long, there is a saying, it stops smelling. And what that means in that context is if we as humans, and men in particular, are repeating certain relationship dynamics, what we call also toxic, then with time, we will not anymore feel that they are toxic. We will actually feel that this is normal, and we will just continue doing that, all the while neglecting what our intuition is telling us and what our heart really feels. So that's why womb healing for men in the context of sexuality, sexual energy, and relationships is so important, because it's all about the distortion of their own sexual energy, which also, of course, goes to watching porn, being consumed by porn, being addicted by porn or addicted to porn. So these are all factors that play a role in that. So when a man engages in his own womb healing practice as a man, and of course those practices are done a little bit different than they're done for women, then he will be able to connect again with his own body, with his own sense of self, with his own emotions. And this will lead to a deeper sense of intimacy with himself first, and then, of course, in connection in relationships. You see, men who have experienced trauma or abuse in their own lives may benefit from womb healing in particular as a way to address the emotional and energetic imprints of these experiences. These are tools that cannot be found in any other area of our body, and everything is always connected. So when a man truly begins to see the root causes of his behaviors, when he is really committed to work on himself, to be the best man that he can be for himself, not what society tells him to be, then he's going to be a man that will step by step by step be able to really embody his true power as a man.